Hi, y'all. Happy Thursday. Welcome to this week's Made in New York Animation Project Industry Access event. Y'all might remember me from last week, and my name is Kristen Eckstein. I'm an art therapist here at TAP, and I am just thrilled to be back here with you as one of your hosts today.
Yep. Hi, I'm John. I'm John Raro, one of the animators here at TAP. Some of you guys may have seen me in our production groups, but I'll be co-hosting here with Kristen today in our event.
Yeah, and today's going to be super fun, super exciting. And before we jump in, we're going to review some Zoom webinar information. So information about the Zoom webinar. This group will operate in webinar format. Attendees will not be able to turn on their video or microphone during webinars. You were counted in attendance as soon as you logged in, so no need to ask. You do not need to follow up with us regarding your attendance. If you lose connection, which we know can happen, just try and rejoin the webinar as soon as possible. And you will receive your incentive even if you get disconnected from the webinar.
All right. Thank you so much for that information. Let's review our goals.
Yeah, so today's goals, we're going to begin with our opening ritual, our reflection. We're going to then move into our TAP Creed. We'll go over some summer program reminders. We will watch the Week 4 Artwork Submission Showcase. So excited for that. We will meet our guest speakers, Jermaine Jose and Jeffrey Chozon, their co-art directors. And then we'll have our Q&A where you get to ask all of your amazing questions and really kind of talk to them through that Q&A. And then we will close with our closing ritual.
All right, that's exciting. So let's get started. Our opening ritual, what is that today?
So, as many of you know, in every TAP group, we engage in an opening ritual to help us check in, connect, really settle in the space and let everyone else know how we're arriving to the session. And without giving too much away about our guest speakers, I borrowed one of the themes of what we'll be talking about, and I wanted to know, I want you to share in the Q&A using the chat, a person, a place, maybe a moment or experience that transformed your life in a positive way. Be anybody, any place, any moment that really had an impact and caused a transformation for you, which transformation was an initial theme in our gift creation in our production group, John.
Mm-hmm. It has been. It's been a reoccurring theme. I think I have one. I haven't thought about this person in a very long time. This was an English teacher named Miss Joyce, and this was in middle school. And this person was, they were very important because they actually kind of pointed out that I could go to a specialized art high school. So them pointing me in that direction kind of led me down this whole path here. So I think that's going to be my answer for a person or a place that kind of transformed me along my path.
Thank you for sharing that. I'm grateful that Miss Joyce did help you come in this direction because it's been awesome to work alongside you at the animation project. I guess this is a person, and it's also kind of a moment I'm thinking about. This week I've been really thinking a lot about my nieces and my nephew, and like a big transformative moment was becoming an aunt. And so I guess I could say my firstborn niece, Olive, it really just changed me in the best way possible. Being an aunt is one of the most fun roles and experiences I've ever had in my life. And it just brings me so much joy. And we've got a lot of answers coming in the chat, which I do want to take a moment to read. Maybe we can, I'll share one, you share one, but Malamine shares their place that transformed them was New York City.
Oh, I
And
see. Okay, sorry. I was in the chat. Jade says, I got an award at my university for a film festival last year. Congratulations. That's a really awesome. The Audience Choice Award. Congrats.
yeah, congrats, Jade. Unsa says, my cat made me kinder for real. Yes, to all the pet owners out there. We love our furry friends.
Matthew says, hanging out with friends at school during lunch.
Safina says they were transformed by drawing with their sister.
Jalen, I got accepted into college, which may seem small to others, but it made me really happy. I'm glad it made you happy. It makes me happy too. Congrats.
Yeah, and that does mean a lot. So thank you for sharing. And again, congratulations. Yasmin wants to share that Miss Santos, she gave me $10 when I graduated 5th grade. She was also very kind to me during my elementary years. She sounds awesome. Thanks for sharing, Yasmin.
Shia, meeting my high school guidance counselor was really positive, positively impacting because without her, I wouldn't have the same passion I do now. Vibe with that.
Mm-hmm. Muhammad says, an experience that changed my life is going to Pakistan for the first time. Wow, that had to be an amazing trip. Thanks for sharing, Muhammad.
Cassie, a senior who I have met while doing an internship, who believes in me and encourages me to in leadership.
That's so great. Smira says, when I was younger, I fell off my bike and I had this fear of bikes. My dad pushed me to start riding bikes again. If I didn't, I would start giving up so easily and wouldn't know how to get back up after falling. What an incredible lesson that you can take with you to so many places throughout your life.
Sabrina, with my sister who really motivated me to go through college and take on new challenges.
Awesome. Gotta love that sister power. We have someone anonymously sharing. My friend signed up for this event through Eventbrite, but that's just a question to the general group. But then we have another person saying, a person who transformed me was my mom. She is very resilient and sees the positive of everyone.
I would like to know if our guests have any moments to share. I don't know. I don't want to put you on the spot, but feel free to.
Yeah, to jump in if you'd like. And to keep reading what we have in the chat, Lena says, hanging out with friends and family brings me joy. Yeah, little transformations along the way. Doesn't have to be a big moment. It could just be something like that. Seeing friends and family has a positive impact.
Patricia says, an experience is how someone helped me finish a project that I forgot last minute. Sorry, my chat moved. That I forgot last minute. Now I won't wait so long to finish it.
Awesome. We have a few more that we have time to read, and we love that you're sharing them. Keep them coming in the chat. We will be reading them. But Zara says, getting my first job was a life-changing moment for me. It made me understand work ethic and motivated me to do more. And I'll quickly read through a couple more. My mom, Tayana says, my mom transformed me into who I am. She's supportive and pushes me past every obstacle. Arnuavo says, my friend pushed me to go to the gym and I've continued to do so and has made me happier. How all of these are so inspiring. Thank you all for sharing these moments, these transformative, positive impacts on your life. Keep them coming. We will keep reading them. We are going to move on. So thank you everyone for participating in this opening ritual.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. Usually we start our sessions off with observing our creed. So, Kristen, if you can explain what that is.
Yeah, our TAP Creed is a list of principles that we value in the space, and we live up to them because it makes our groups safe and fun and keeps them moving in the best way possible. So I'll start off by reading number one, and then John, you can join me, and we'll go back and forth until we've reviewed our entire creed.
All right.
Number one, we show respect. We are a team of individuals from different backgrounds and experiences with a shared interest in learning. We live up to the same expectations as we would in person. We mute ourselves when we are not speaking in order for all voices to be clearly heard.
We take care of our technology. We utilize our technology with care and professionalism in order to support the learning experience for all who attend.
Yes, we focus. We have a lot to learn. All of our attention is focused on the group. We do our best to limit distractions around us, and we wear headphones if possible.
We participate. We are engaged in the group. We abide by the creed when asking questions and sharing our creative work.
Number five, we own the content. This is our group. It's our opportunity to learn more about the animation industry and express ourselves creatively.
We attend group. Our voices and ideas are valued. We attend each group we are registered for. We log into group on time until the end, and our Zoom names match our registration names.
Excellent. Thank you, John. Now we're going to take a moment to review some important summer program reminders. This is going to be 3 slides, so I hope you don't get sick of my voice and stay with me. When it comes to late arrival, all sessions, with the exception of Thursday webinars, will close 10 minutes after the start time. If you arrive 10 minutes after the start time, you will not be admitted to the Zoom session. Arriving more than 10 minutes late counts as an absence. Leaving early. If you are expected to stay for the duration of each session. If you're present for less than a total of 30 minutes in your AM career readiness sessions, you'll be marked absent. If you're present for less than a total of 90 minutes in the PM production sessions, you will be marked absent. Unfortunately, there is no way to make up for a missed session. You will only be paid for the sessions which you attend. Incentives information. Everyone got paid this week, so this is important. You should have received your incentive card in the mail this week. First date of your incentive card was loaded with funds was August 1st. Your card will be loaded with funds one more time on August 21st. All bonuses, incentives that you earn throughout the program will be applied to your card on the next and final pay date. If you have any questions related to your incentives, any at all, email incentives@theanimationproject.org. And last but certainly not least, we have some digital badging information. You are eligible to earn 2 digital badges this summer, applying for the job and workplace advocacy. To qualify for a badge, you must, this is the first requirement, attend 75% of all AM career readiness groups. If you've accomplished that, next you will submit the badge submission form for the badge in which you're applying. This can be found on our website. And the badging submissions are due by August 14th. Which is the beginning of the final week of the program. For more information about digital badging, including the submission forms, it's all located on the TAP Summer 2023 webpage. And if you have any questions related to digital badges, you can email badging@theanimationproject.org.
Thank you so much for all of that information, Kristen. One of all of our favorite parts of TAP Summer Program is the submissions, all the submissions that you guys are giving us behind the screens as our programming continues. So we're going to take a moment to look at those, and thank you so much for everybody who has been sending things in. Please keep sending things in. We're going to look at our week 4 art submissions.
And feel free to share the Q&A. I'm just blown away. Such incredible artwork. So cool to see what's happening in other groups. And thank you all for, taking time outside of the program or in groups to create that work and then share it with us in this platform. We really hope that you keep the artwork coming. We will continue to showcase it during our Thursday webinars. If you're interested in sharing your artwork and submitting it, you can email it to submissions@theanimationproject.org. And definitely include your name and your group number so that we can credit you. I love seeing where the work is coming from. It's so cool. But if you're uncomfortable, you can keep it off.
Yeah, please send more work in. I love watching it. I think that it's awesome to see the creative eye behind all the people that I work with every day. It's really fun to see. But without further ado, let us introduce our guests for today. We have 2 guests today, both of them are co-art directors with the Nickelodeon. One of them being Jermaine Jose, who is a Filipino-American artist working in TV animation design for the last 11 years. Congratulations on that. That must be a feat in its own. By day, he co-art directs cartoons with robots, and by night, he's scribbling down stories and drafting letters to his past self on how he would restart his career.
And alongside Jermaine, we have Jeffrey Chizon, who's an artist working in Los Angeles, California. Love LA. After graduating from SJSU, he started his career as a background painter on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2012. Since then, he worked for many companies on various projects such as Teen Titans Go, Venture Brothers, Santiago of the Seas, and the Rise of Teenage Ninja Turtles, to name a few. He enjoys indoor rock climbing and relaxing at the beach while watching his wife surf.
Wow. As two crazy personalities here with us today, I'm really excited. Jeff and Jermaine are currently co-directing on Transformers Earthspark at Nickelodeon Animation Studios. Welcome, guys.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for having us.
Thanks
Okay.
Thank you for being here.
Absolutely. So we just want to get this started.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to share my screen. We got a little presentation coming up here.
And a reminder to our attendees, feel free to type your questions in the chat as the presentation goes. We will revisit them once the presentation is finished. So ask lots of questions. And back to you, Jermaine.
Thank you. Trying to set this up, make sure you guys can see everything. How's that? Does it look everything good?
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, good. Let me just scroll. You see that? Let me see.
Uh-huh.
All right, cool. So, all right, we're going to do this talk about visual development for TV animation production, or what we like to say is how to get the pretty pictures out of your head and onto the screen and get paid for it. So yeah, let's just get through this. Who are we? We're Jeffrey Chozon and Jermaine Jose. We're currently co-art directors on Nickelodeon's Transformers Earthspark. And I was wrong. I don't have 11 years. I have 12 plus years of animation design experience along with Jeffrey. And here's some of the projects that we've worked on, which we talked about a little bit. So
yeah,
as you can see, we kind of like worked on a lot of Ninja Turtles properties and a lot of stuff that's been around. So we've been able to do our own take on it.
For some reason, just so many Ninja Turtle properties. I don't know if that's yeah.
And they
One
helped us
after the
level
other.
up for sure.
Yeah.
Did both of you guys work on all of these features together, or is it like a mix?
Almost. Actually,
Almost, yeah.
Yeah, almost.
I think the only one I didn't work on was the Batman one.
Yeah. But we've spent most of our career working together, and I think that's one of the things we'll touch upon later on is like you're going to make a lot of cool friends, and people are going to help you out, and you'll work with so many great people that they'll just bring you along to the next thing. Yeah, so we've been working together almost on every project. Every time we hear something new, yo, would you?
Yeah, I know. Do you need a job?
Yeah, you need a gig.
A good friend.
Yeah. So this whole thing, we'll get into it. This presentation, this is about giving future viz dev artists a head start. That's what we wanted to do here. Package up everything that we've learned that we think is important, being a viz dev artist and animation design, and we'll go specifically over a lot of the like TV animation production pipeline. Specifically because that's what we've been doing, and there are going to be some differences that we'll talk about between other mediums like film and TV. So yeah, these are basically things we would have loved to know when we were just getting started, and I think even if you're already started, like it's never too late. So there's
yeah, for sure.
plenty to learn. We're still learning.
It's a lifelong thing, I think.
Yeah. You're going to be a student forever, and I think the best part about being an artist, especially on the visual end, is you get to play all the time, and it's leveling up and adding new skills to your skill tree. Like this is your stack. You can draw, you can paint, you can draw cars, you can draw monsters, you can draw whatever. That's up to you. That's the beauty of being an artist. Everyone's different. And that's the beauty of it.
And you're kind of like also like a student of life, because depending on what project you are, you're always doing research into different things, and depending on the prompt or the assignment that you have to solve, you have to like maybe do a little research with, I don't know, like in biology or in like physics, and like this is really cool way to kind of open your mind to the world, and like fill your like library so you can reach out and include that in your work.
and then that helps you become a more unique artist. You know, it's like people will find you for the things that you're interested in, and those
Yeah.
are the things you get to share, and including your work. So, all right, let's get into this. So here's overview of what we're going to be talking about today, real quick. We'll keep it moving, you know, we'll wait till the Q&A to answer questions. So it's going to be a little bit, so kick back and relax, grab some water or something. But make sure you're listening, paying attention a little bit. There's some to stuff here that we would love to talk to you about. So
like write some notes too and save it for the end.
First, we'll talk from students. Yeah. Sorry, can you guys hear me okay? I'm cutting out a little.
You're good.
Sound good, yeah.
Thank you. All right, so yeah, talk about our journeys from student to co-art directors, and you know, we'll go back from like college, high school, and all that stuff, and then just what we're doing as kids. We'll go a little bit about the craft, visual development, and animation design, and the game that we like to call it. You know, it's what we do. This is a game that we play. You do get points, and you do get to win, but everybody gets to win. That's the fun part. We're making cartoons. The artist lifestyle, we'll go into that a little bit, what you can expect about being an artist in the animation industry, what your day-to-day might be like, the people you might meet, things like that. State of the industry, we'll go over that real quick, just kind of gloss over the things, what it's like today working in animation, you know, what's important, and maybe what's coming up, and a little bit of where we came from. And then after that, we got plenty of time for Q&A. The one thing that we ask throughout this thing is, while we're going through this, could you keep track of any nuggets of knowledge that you found particularly valuable? Just anything that comes up that might feel like a game changer to you, that just like unlocks something. As an artist, we're going to keep talking about this. Like Jeff said, we're always learning, and you got to pay attention to those small little things, and that will help like propel you forward, you know. One thing we like to do is just keep track of that stuff. Every single nugget of knowledge, keep that in a base, a note for yourself. So do that if you can. So yeah, we'll just get into it. We'll start off with who we are, tell you a little bit about ourselves. There you go, Jeff.
Oh, me first. Okay.
Yeah, bro, sorry.
So I kind of like, my journey was a little bit weird at the beginning because after graduating high school, I actually went into mechanical engineering first. I went to school at Cal Poly Pomona in SoCal, and I did it for like almost 3 years. And I although it was, you know, like fun, and I really, you know, love math and science and engineering, it just wasn't, I guess, like something that I wanted to do for the rest of my life. I can still remember the moment when I kind of decided that I didn't want to do that. It was like in an engineering classroom, and I kind of saw all these students at the start of the class, and they were so passionate about what they were talking about. I think they were talking about like a problem that they were trying to solve, like some sort of equation. And I just never really felt that in my heart. And but I wanted that passion, you know, and I really like, I've always had, I guess, like a propensity for art and drawing. And I took a few art classes at Cal Poly, and the teacher told me like, what are you doing here? Kind of thing, you know? So that kind of like added a little bit of motivation for me to switch majors and switch schools actually. So I one summer I just kind of switched and started at San Jose State University, and that's where my art education really started. And when I got there, I kind of just buckled down, and at that point, I really had to work hard and kind of also like prove to my family that this is what I wanted to do for a living, even though I didn't really know anything about it, honestly. I come, you know, from a family of like nurses and people in the medical field, so they had no idea either. And it took a little bit of time to convince them, and I had to do research on my own and kind of like try to navigate through, you know, an industry that I guess at the time maybe wasn't as like the information wasn't upfront as it is now. And, you know, put almost like a packet together and like, this is my proposal. And, you know, this is like, these are the steps I needed to take to kind of maybe get into the industry. But even then, when I was in college, I was so, yeah, really, really like, man, am I gonna have a job at the end of this, you know? So, but, you know, I guess it worked out after doing maybe like 2 years or 3 years of art school at San Jose State. I was offered an art test on Ninja Turtles, and I was very surprised that even anybody like wanted to offer me anything. I didn't really think too much of my art back then. And there were a lot of kids at the time who were so good and like such superstars. They were already being like looked at by all these studios, you know, and I was just like so happy, you know. And even that art test that was created was so intense. I didn't, you know, think that I was gonna even have a chance to get the job. And after I turned in, like, I think it took a few tries too. The art director at the time, she kept, I guess, like, well, you know, you kind of got to fix this a little bit, but, you know, do it again and do it again and do it again. So I'm like, oh, okay, maybe there's something to this, you know. So the thing was, when I finally was kind of offered the job, or even like they were getting serious about, you know, taking me in, or just like as a prospect, I hadn't graduated yet. So they kind of told me that, well, you know, your test is really good, but you're still in school, so maybe we'll just kind of look for another candidate. And I was so heartbroken. I was so heartbroken. And I went to my like the head of the program at the time in school, and I told him, like, this is what happened, and, you know, what do I do? And he pretty much told me, you know what, you should just move there now. You know, forget about, I had like a month or two left of school, and just forget about, you know, the rest of the class, and we'll just kind of, you know, we'll figure it out. But tell them, you know, I'm gonna move right now. And you know, if you're serious about giving, you know, me a shot, then I'm, you know, I'll make the move right now. So, and that's what I did. I moved there. I had to go back to school to kind of like graduate, but we figured out a thing with my courses. And yeah, like that first, I don't know, week or so starting at Nickelodeon was really wild. I couldn't believe it. And yeah, and I guess the rest is history. You know, she's actually the art director at the time. She's a really great friend of ours. You know, she was our first art director. She was like almost our second mother, who took care of us and, you know, put us under her wing. She was a great mentor, and she still even is. It's kind of weird because like a few months ago, she asked for like freelance work from us. So that was a very, very weird thing, because we're art directing this show and we're like trying to give her work, and like, oh wow, this is kind of weird.
Role reversal.
But anyway, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It's so weird. Influences, I mean, that's kind of a huge spectrum. There's nothing really right now. I've been mostly influenced by illustrators, I guess, lately. Of course, like film and animation has been a big part of my life, and, you know, I try to keep just watching and, you know, learning from all these amazing creatives, but it's definitely not limited to those mediums. So, you know, illustrations, illustrators, music. My wife's also in animation, but her discipline is totally different. She's a storyboard artist. So I get to learn from her as well, and kind of like learn from her lens of the industry, you know, and how she solves problems in her department, which helps like greatly, because it informs the stuff that we do also on the show. So, but yeah, like right now, it's not really, I don't really have too many specifics that I can think of as far as influences go. Been watching a lot of health and science, I guess, like videos. Oh, there's actually one that I've been really excited about, and there's this kind of like, just real quick, like a paper on room temperature superconductors that might be a game changer. And if it's proven like that it works, then maybe there, these people might get a Nobel Prize for it. So that's been kind of like at the top of my list of stuff following right now.
We got to work that into a story or something,
Yeah, I know.
Like
It's
every
pretty
time we
cool.
talk about stuff like this, it's fuel for our work,
Yeah,
So
for sure.
cool. So I'll hop in then.
All you.
All right. It's great because our paths cross at some point, which is great. It's cool. I'll meet Jeff at some point in my career, but before that, same thing as a kid, just kind of growing up, loving Saturday morning cartoons, playing a lot of video games and card games and things. I was raised by a musician and a chef, but the musician, he had to sacrifice his job because of a disability, so he can pursue his creative career in that way. But I was still raised by a creative, so in our household, it wasn't much of an obstacle to pursue a creative path, whereas some counterparts, it's like, especially being a Asian American growing up, art wasn't really like the thing that you're supposed to do. It doesn't make money, apparently. Starving artist was the thing, was the trope, but that's not true. You can figure it out. So yeah, that wasn't too much of an obstacle, but it wasn't a clear path for me yet. I thought I like drawing. I didn't feel comfortable at it. I wasn't like really, really good at it until much later, and I still feel like I struggle a little bit, but that's that's every artist's curse. But in high school, I started really getting into anime and cartoons. Avatar: The Last Airbender came out and stuff, and Pixar movies were around, and they were so good. And I remember watching The Incredibles and around my senior year or something like that. And I got to start making a decision about my future, right? So that that movie kind of changed the game for me a little bit. I was like, wow, this is amazing. And at that time, I was just like in awe of the fact that you could do stuff like that. And back then, it was about the technology and the fact that they could do things like that, and none of it was real. It's like, wow, this is it's so cool, and you're telling all these stories. And my dad was the type to tell stories, so I kind of fell into it. So I started making short films with my friends, just little things, mostly improv, using Naruto music and sound effects and things, just like stupid stuff. But it was fun, and then that kind of sparked me into like, hey, I should maybe take this art thing a little more seriously. I didn't really have much mentorship from in the art. I was kind of lost in that. My dad was a musician, so he could kind of show me things a little creatively, and what life might be like. But he did harp on me focusing on providing for myself. That was important. And I definitely thank him for that, because now I look at my work and my life in that manner, is like you can kind of do both. He didn't get a chance to, so maybe this is mine. So then I went into I took the leap and decided I'm gonna go to art school. It's really expensive though, so that was one big obstacle. We had to take out loans and stuff like that. It was post 2008 when the financial crash happened, so man, things are expensive. People losing their houses, things like that. But I made it through. I went to the Art Institute of Seattle. It was a for-profit institution, and quality of education wasn't great, and kind of left me with a little bit of gaps in my knowledge. But I supplemented a lot with online stuff. I'd say like Nomon School, like the Nomon workshop. So many things from YouTube. Concept Design Academy, Schoolism, and then I've taken classes here and there in different colleges and stuff, just online. So, again, with just talking about being a forever student, it's just part of the game. I found out what I didn't know much later once I got into the industry. So the one thing I would say that my school did provide me was opportunities and connections and stuff. If the education itself was a little lackluster, it made up for in the fact that I had one shot to be an intern at Nickelodeon. So Nickelodeon showed up to our school, and they were looking for interns. I had just graduated like a few months before, and I didn't know if I was be eligible, but they said, come on in anyway. And I worked my butt off, just putting together artwork, making a portfolio that I think they would make. I made a ton of Nickelodeon fan art and stuff. You know, I loved all their shows growing up. You know, I was definitely a Rugrats kid. So I did that. I did a bunch of fan art and got their attention at least. And I nailed the interview. And then painstakingly after a couple months, I hear back like, yes, this is around similar time as Jeff, like getting the call from Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, I think so.
Just a few months before, you know, it was April for me, or April was when I got the call or interview. And then they said, yeah, come on down. And I started as an intern in June of 2011 on Dora the Explorer, which is an awesome preschool show. Amazing people. And then that's where I met Jeff. We were hanging out because he's friends with another one of the interns. So we hung out. We got to be close friends, and then he hooked it up with freelance opportunities. Like, yo, my art director is looking for folks. I was like, word, I don't know if I could do that, but I'll try. And so I gave it a shot, did my best, and then I got offered freelance gig, and then I got offered full-time staff a few months later. So again, yeah, rest is history. After that, we just kept, you know, we're like, all right, that's our first thing. And we were really lucky that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was our first thing because it lasted a few seasons. So we got to work together for a few years. It was a high profile show and it was tough. It was fun, but it was tough. Like our art director and pretty much everyone in leadership said, like, if you can work here, you can work anywhere. You know, and it was about the pipeline. It was about the artistry. It was about, you know, doing your best and like really pushing your vision and your unique ideas and not letting up and covering all the bases, you know.
Also, like imposter syndrome, you know, just being around people who are amazing already, and you know, we're both just like fresh and green and like, oh man, am I even supposed to be here, you know?
Yeah, huge. So it I think it was also kind of a lesson in don't think you can't get there, you know? Like I thought I wouldn't be able to, like my dream back then was Pixar and stuff. Like, oh, that's where I want to be. But I didn't realize how much of a rowdy Nickelodeon kid I was. So and then when they came knocking, I was like, yo, this is way sooner than I expected. I thought I'd be working in like mobile games or something for a while, but no, it was for the first stop. So, you know, fast track. Yeah. So it was really just like, if opportunities come up, you just got to be prepared for them. You know, you got to take the leap and just go for it. So for me, one of the last obstacle was really just proximity to the industry. Like I wasn't anywhere close and I didn't know anyone in the industry. I didn't have any mentors or heroes. I just knew that I wanted to be a part of it and I wanted to tell stories. And yo, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, that was awesome. Like I didn't know they were gonna make a new one. They just bought the property. Nickelodeon said, yeah, we're making stuff.
Yeah, I didn't know either. I wanted to get into Avatar, like Korra.
Yeah, that was me too.
Avatar. That was my thing. I was like, oh man, making a new Korra.
But it was like, you know, universe just screaming at you. It's like, what'd you watch when you were a kid? TMNT. Making a new one? Okay. So yeah. And then the rest is history, yeah. Cool. So we spent a lot of time talking about us. So let's get into this whole thing about what we do and all that. So yeah, what is visual development? It's about exploring possibilities. It's dreaming what doesn't exist into existence. It's the art of making things up. Your job is to imagine for a living. Like you're gonna have to ask yourself and everyone else around you, what if a lot, like constantly, like what if we do this? What if we do that? What if this thing is a giant like plant made out of wood or metal or something like that? It's just random things that you keep asking. And to help bring out that imagination, to help put these things on page, we use some of these tools. And these are very, very basic fundamental tools, but these are only some of them, but these are the major ones. And it's shapes, it's line, it's color, and it's silhouette. If you look at the combination of those three circles, almost guaranteed you're gonna know who that is, where that comes from, right?
Super iconic.
Yeah, it's And that's kind of the beauty of visual development, is like you're trying to create this whole world around you. You're symbolizing something that doesn't exist. You're distilling something that's true into these really basic things. And if you look around you, it's like everything's built out of shapes. You know, you can look at the things that are square, you can look at the things that are round and triangle or whatever, cones, cylinders, things like that. You'll see all the lines around you, you'll see all the colors and stuff. And so our job is to kind of understand the visual world around us. Like, what do we see? And be able to break it down and then invent it for something that you can only see in your head. And
imagination. I mean, you know,
huge.
like part of that is, you know, being observant of the world around you as well. Like the only way to, you know, imagine something is you need a starting point too. And you know, you need to be kind of like looking at stuff and wondering about stuff. I think an inquisitive mind is good to have, you know, in this field, because you're always learning about new things and learning about how to incorporate, you know, them into your work. And you know, like life imitates art, and it's the same the other way around. Yeah, it's pretty fun.
Yeah, you know, it's like life is it's like your Lego pieces. You know, you get to look around and see what fits together. It's like, what do I want to make today? So yeah, by combining all these things, this is what you get. These are all clips, screenshots from some of my favorite shows of childhood and things that are going on today. But you can see with like styles run the gamut. Like you can make all these different shapes, be really graphic, very abstract, or you can be a little bit more realistic and stuff. So if you look at cartoons like Dexter's Laboratory or The Simpsons, Craig the Creek, Gumball, they're all really simple shapes, very geometric, you know, and graphic, and then things more like Spider-Verse, Boondocks, you know, the Transformers pushes realism a little bit, but you know, there's so many ways you can go. That's the fun part. It's infinite visual possibility. And it's across mediums and technologies and stuff. You know, this is film, TV, games. Visual development is not limited to just animation or anything. It's really just thinking, visually thinking, and then coming up with specific rules for the project to make these decisions on the visual aspects of the project. So those tools that we had, that's where we start. So then what helps us make decisions about what some of this stuff might look like, for instance, like with Transformers, or any of these shows, we think about story first. It's a story-based design. This is the easiest way you could do it. And you don't have to make any decisions for yourself. You let the story do all the decision making. This is your chance to figure out what it is you're trying to say with the story itself. You know, what do the characters look like based on their personalities? What does the world look like based on how we're supposed to feel in it? And you know, like what's the entire show's visual style based on the type of story you're trying to tell? Is it a horror or a comedy, an adventure? Is it drama? Is it a Western? You know, anything. And so by understanding the story you're trying to tell, the themes, what the characters are going through, and what they're trying to say, and what their obstacles are, and what they're trying to overcome, their fears, all that stuff. Once you kind of immerse yourself in the story, you understand it. Now the story kind of helps you tell like what decisions you should be making about your visual style of the show.
That's also why the story is so important. It's the cornerstone of like everything pretty much. And figuring that out and getting that right is extremely important, because it drives the rest of the pipeline, the rest of the things that, you know, will kind of like go back to it. So getting that like right and figuring that out and taking the time to really flesh it out is a huge part, you know, of the process, because so many things depend on it down the line.
It's like 80% of the work. 20% of it is execution, you know, really thinking about it, understanding, going through it, trying to figure out the Rubik's Cube of what the story is and how it could be expressed visually. So here's some good examples here. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. We helped develop part of the styles for different things. We weren't involved in that last one, but we were
Yeah.
involved in these first two. But what we're trying to get at is that there's a specific style that you can make for any specific kind of story, but you want to make sure it's made for a specific audience too. And so here's a story that's being told 3 different ways. The first one is a CG and kind of 2D hybrid production. The middle one, Rise TMNT, that one's a full 2D production with some CG aspects in it, but mostly 2D. And then we have Mutant Mayhem, which just came out, which is a CG production, but made to feel kind of like almost like a scribbly paint notebook, you know, stuff like that. So there's super distinct styles between them, but the puzzle pieces are the same, right? We've got 4 green turtles. We've got ninja attire. They've got bandanas. They've got personalities, right? They've got all their gear. They're in New York, right? It depends what era we want to put them in. Is it a little bit more of a realistic place? Is it a little bit more graphic or abstract? Is it more illustrative? You know, does it feel more like a dream or more like someplace you could just walk down, right? So each of these shows has the same sort of pieces in it, but they can be made in such drastically different ways. And so one way to help do that and figure out what those are, what those decisions will be, is story-based design. And then the other end of that is like understanding who your audience is. What are you making this for? Who's it for? And so you can kind of see if you're really looking like deeply into it, once you watch the show and understand where it's going, you can kind of see what influenced it, like, and who it might be for. Like, there are kids who grew up with the 80s cartoon or the 90s cartoon who are adults now that have kids of their own. And so the 2012 Turtles was kind of a love letter to the entire thing, comic books, an animated series, the live action movies. So if you watch it, you'll see like Easter eggs here and there. You'll see personality traits that are pretty similar. Maybe even story events that are that pay homage to some of those things. And
like, also, I just wanted to add that I didn't really realize until, you know, after working there for some time, but a lot of the crew who worked on the 2012 Turtles were originally Warner Brothers people, and they kind of most of them worked on a lot of Bruce Timm stuff, you know, like Batman, and you can see the lineage of design. Actually, you can track it down from Bruce Timm to Glenn Murakami to Zero, and then, you know, and now Zero's production. So it was really cool to like find that out, and, you know, everything kind of like started to make sense, and the lens that they kind of made the show in, you know, started to like materialize, and like, whoa, it's this way because this is the language that they were, you know, doing back then, like in the 90s. So, and, you know, I also wanted to add that this was such a big feat for them to kind of like translate into CG, because a lot of them were 2D guys, and, you know, you had this kind of like shape language that worked beautifully, you know, in 2D, but didn't, efficient, and, you know, like strong silhouettes, and they didn't really know if it could work in 3D. And there were a lot of, you know, R&D that went to the kind of like design and development of the characters, and trying to bring that, you know, into the CG world, especially back then when CG was still kind of like young in TV, you know. It was really hard, and it took a lot of work, you know, to get it there. And it's, you know, it's still not perfect, but I think for the amount of work that went into it, I think it was pretty successful.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, solving that problem was always like mind-blowing to me, because I just never knew that it could really work until somebody proved that it could work, you know. And I love that. I love that about it, you know.
I think that's a fun part about our jobs, is we're also kind of mad scientists in a way. We have to experiment a little bit and see what works. And especially on a TV animation production schedule, it's shorter, it's faster. You have to iterate quickly, and you have to make decisions. You can't wait, you know. So when they're coming up with the ideas of how to design stuff, you got to be clear, and you better hope it works. And that works with or that goes for every show, you know. So same sort of ideologies and questions would come up in every iteration. So we'll talk about a little bit then next on the kind of those differences between TV and film and visual development. In TV, like I said earlier, it's a little shorter. You have shorter schedules, but you have longer, more fleshed out stories. So you get to live there a little bit longer. You have to make quicker decisions in this case because of those shorter schedules. So you can't explore too much because there's less money involved. So it's a smaller budget and you just can't do as much. So TV is kind of like the art of efficient storytelling. You know, you gotta make sure what you're saying is clear and compelling because it's on the shorter end of things. And then TV is kind of the opposite end of that. There's much longer schedules. It's one long story, but there's a lot more fine tuning involved, and because of that, it has a bigger budget. It requires that detail to pay attention, to run through options, to make the best story they can. And the thing is, they're the same but different. We do the same things in TV too. It's just we have to do it in a shorter amount of time.
Yeah, well, it's kind of weird because you say that, right? And in TV, we focus a lot more on episodic stuff. So, you know, in any given like season, you have, say, like 10 episodes. We have to make those 10 episodes work. But in film, you have 2 hours and every scene has to be perfect.
Yeah.
You know, so we don't have the luxury of doing that for every episode. So we kind of have to, depending on the budget, find the centerpieces of the entire season and put more of the resources there. And, you know, like our showrunner always has to make decisions based on that strategy, just so that like we know that we're giving those centerpieces like the amount of resource and time that they deserve, you know. Whereas in film, like everything needs to work. So yeah, you have maybe, I don't know, like 1,000 scenes, but all of those scenes have to like work perfectly together. And you know, you kind of like run the risk of being overworked too, because people are always trying to like fine tune it, right? Sometimes it kind of takes the magic out of it a little bit, you know, especially if you're an artist and you've been working on the same scene for like, I don't know, 3 months. Yeah, you're kind of like, oh man, I need a change of pace.
Like we're working on assignments on a weekly basis, you know, but it might take
the turnaround is huge
for something, couple days, couple weeks, but you know, film's a little nutty. It's
I don't know if I honestly, I don't know if I could do that right now. Like if I had gotten is just the just life cycle of the assignments that I'm working on is just so short, you know. If I worked on a assignment in a film, it
kind of
but
yeah, for sure. I would say then like one of the great advantages too of TV is it gives you a chance to learn quickly through iteration, you know. It's like new episode, new set, new prop, new character, go, you know. All right, third episode, fourth episode, you get to try again. And that's the great part is like TV is kind of like college and where you could get paid to learn. Film is too, but like TV gives you the reps. It's like going to the gym, like
it really is.
So
you get to evolve faster.
Yes, exactly. And that's what I love about working in TV. So yeah, those are the differences, but they're pretty much the same thing. But these are kind of the main skills that are required for being a visual developer artist. You need to be able to draw almost anything and paint almost anything. You got to think deeply about the things that you're trying to make. You got to learn quickly if you don't know how to do the things that you're trying to make. And you got to communicate clearly about if you don't know how to make the things that you want to make, but you still want to make them, right? Because at the end of the day, you still got to submit work on time. And it's got to be good. It's got to be good, right? And sure, there's pressure there, but that's the point of you know, going to school or finding mentors or a community that can help you learn. You don't need to go to art school. You don't need to do all that stuff. It helps for sure if you have the resources and the bandwidth to do so. But what's really important is the skills that that are required of you here. And like these are most of these things, is being able to visually develop something, is to harness that imagination. You need the mechanical skill to be able to do it. But that's just the starting point. And like we were talking about before, like your artist life is a forever student. So you'll constantly be stacking new skills on top of each other. You might not be able to draw maybe cars really well, but maybe you can draw people really well. So maybe that you start leveling up that skill a little bit more, and that becomes your specialty. So maybe you become a character designer versus a prop designer or a set designer or a painter. You know, you start to choose the path that you go down and strengthen what you're good at, and then starts adding, like, what do you want to be good at too, you know?
Yeah.
So
that was also always a big thing in school for me, because there were so many disciplines that I wanted to learn, and but I also had to find a job at the end of this. So I had to like, okay, well, I need to maybe specialize in one thing first and try to get a job in that discipline. And then maybe after that, you know, once I have that taken care of, I can start learning about the other things. Because sometimes students fall into a trap, I think, at least in when I was in school, where they were trying to hit every discipline, but there's just no time to do it in the amount of time you're learning, because they take the work that it takes to kind of like master those skills, it's almost a lifelong thing. So my like priorities were like, I need a job after this first, so I can keep doing this, but yes, it's definitely important to have those things, because working as a professional, you don't want, though, not being able to meet the minimum requirements, you don't want that to be the crutch, right?
Yeah.
When you submit an assignment for review, you don't want the director to be like, this isn't working because the drawing isn't working. You want them to say, this isn't working because the concept isn't working, let's try another concept, kind of thing. You want that. So, and that's really all just foundation stuff, and that's stuff that you can fine tune and learn, just by putting in the reps, I guess.
And you can start like now, right now. Really, this we're a small team, but we're maybe about a dozen people, but you don't even need that. If you can find a couple friends and say like, hey, I want to draw characters, do you want to draw props or sets, or you want to paint or something like that, like make things together and just keep going, and you'll learn to communicate, you'll learn how to accelerate because you have rivals. It's kind of like Pokemon effect. You're like, oh well, you're doing great over there, I want to get these badges over here. So
you get like a mini production almost.
Exactly. So with these skills, then you can do stuff like this. So say you're tasked to making something like this. There's a huge background, and it's a moment piece. It's something that's happening that kind of sets the tone for what's going on in this film. And so this is a clip from, or a background from Rise of the TMNT, the movie that we did is it a couple of years or a year ago?
I think it's a couple of years ago now.
Yeah. So there's things here that we needed to consider, because we want you to feel a certain way, right? And hopefully we were successful. So when you look at it, hopefully one of the things that you're seeing is like, whoa, there's a city, but something crazy is going on over here. There's something in the sky, you're looking up and it's grabbing your attention. Hopefully that's the case. How does it make you feel? Do you feel scared or nauseous? Are you excited? Are you intrigued at all? And what's the mood of it? Does it feel dangerous? It does look chaotic. I'm not sure what's going on, but there's intent there. There's hopefully a story that we have figured out prior to this, where it's like, we've determined the colors, the shapes, what's necessary in the scene to understand what it is, what's happening, and whether or not you pull off the prompt, that's where you get the reaction. So in this case, I remember one of the descriptors of of this piece was it's got to be beautiful, beautifully terrifying. You know, it's got it's got to be a little pretty. You know, it's got to be a little pretty. But when you really look into it, there's some scary stuff going on.
Did you paint this?
I painted it, yeah, and then
Nice.
but Rodrigo Tello, he's the one that did the design, amazing designer. But you can look at all the craziness that went into this.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, it was
beautiful.
super fun to make. And they make it really easy. You know, part of being a painter is you help make the background sing. You know, and I think that was the part I fell in love with as
Yeah.
a painter, and it was yeah, it's just really fun to do. So yeah, let's get into then the nitty gritty of just like how we do it. You know, what's the game that we actually play? And the goal is simple. It's to create clear and compelling artwork on time and to specification. You know, there are very specific things that we need to be made, and they have to be made clearly, and it's got to be great, and you got to do it on time. You know, it's got to be we're on a schedule. We're on a
Yeah.
schedule.
I think the
And
time part is what makes it really hard, right?
yeah,
Because you can make beautiful stuff if you had, a
time.
lot of time to do it. Yeah.
Yep. But that's the game, you know, that's the Tetris, that's the Rubik's Cube chess match that we have to do. And every piece of artwork that our team makes needs to make sense for the story. You know, it has to be interesting to look at. It needs to be, and not just that, but it needs to be made on time, and it's got to be able to do whatever the story requires and what the team intends for that. So here's a simple simple gameplay loop. This is our process. You want to step one, explore your options. You don't want to go straight into it. Don't just jump into the thing and make the thing. You can.
I wanted to preface too that this
Yeah.
is after you get like a script. So, we
Yeah.
have a script and we're about to kind of like break down the script and to see what assets we need to make for the show.
Mhm. So, you know, that's part of this whole exploring options thing, and we'll get into that. And it's about knowing what the story entails and what options you have to help tell it, right? And then once you have that, you're going to design an experience around it. You're going to design, you're going to make the plan of attack, basically. After that, you're going to execute. You're going to make sure, you know, this is when you put pen to paper, you put stylus to tablet or whatever. You know, this is when you start making decisions. After you've made the decisions, you review it. You have to talk to people and make sure, hey, like, hey, is this working? You know, don't just do it in a vacuum. You could look at your stuff and be like, yeah, that's cool, but you don't know.
Yeah.
You've been looking at it for too long, you know.
Yeah.
You need a second opinion. What might look red to you might be blue to someone else, and you're like, uh-oh, I've been looking at this way too long. So after that, once you've reviewed everything, you reviewed that attempt, you finalize your choices, you package it up, and you send it on its way. You know, and that's pretty much the game. So yeah, we'll go through each one of these things real quick and show you a little bit of an example of an asset that we've made. So let's start here with exploration. What you have to do is you start from abundance. You don't want to start making things up, like we said. You want to collect ideas, but you also want to collect ideas and references just as a starting point. You don't want to start from scratch, you know. This helps prep the page, we like to call it, is you know, when you're looking at a blank page and it's really scary, you know, you don't know what to draw, you're just drawing circles or whatever, you're scribbling and you're just making lines. This is a way to eliminate that creative block a little bit. Is you prep it, you put something on there, and then you find what's there and see if it fits. So in this case,
Research. Making a mood board, like grabbing inspiration from life or other artists sometimes. Yeah. So
I would say you have to you keep in mind the context of the story as the key pieces, you know. So like, what are the important Lego pieces of the story that you need to know in order to make those, you know, right visual decisions, like we were talking about, like what's the story about, who's in it, what do they represent, how am I supposed to feel, right? And by collecting all those references, collecting all those moods, you have that starting point to begin with. And then it allows you to explore different directions, so you're not locked into place. You know, you want to see if there's a spectrum of things, because you want to be surprised too. You know, don't go with your first answer. Go with your at least your third, fourth, fifth, maybe 10th answer, and then over time, your 5th, 10th answer becomes your first. You know, you get better at it, right?
In school, we were always like taught, when you do like iterations of a design, like the first idea might be the best one, but I need the 100th idea to tell me that it's the best one. So you still got to do it, you know, just to like get the ideas out there. You know?
It's the volume, and so volume helps solve those problems. So this is, you spend a good amount of time on this. You know, say it's out of 100%, it's at least 20% of the work. You know, you're putting in that extra time to give the rest of that 80% a clear place to go, basically. So here's a small example of us putting together a mood board of just ideas. In the script, it called for a character that kind of already existed, and this is from Transformers season 1, episode like 120 something. So it's later on in the season. There's a creature that we need to design that's called the Dweller, and it's this underground robotic worm sort of thing. And so we started looking at references of what the thing actually looked like in the original show, and you know, well, what's our take on it? Like, what does it need to do? What does the script call for? What's the vibe that we're supposed to be getting from it? So we collected these kind of these illustrations from this other artist that's kind of known for making these strange aliens and things. And so we looked at that as inspiration. You know, we really wanted something that did not feel like it was from Earth, right? And then we needed to somehow figure out what's all the functions that it needs to make, and what's the what sort of textures and things could we apply to it that could make it feel even more alien and stuff. So identifying what's in the script, discussing the story itself and the objectives of the asset, and then building the mood boards. That's the first part of exploration. Then we start nailing it down. You know, you spent that 80% and you're like, all right, let's put together a plan. So this is where design comes into play. You're distilling the truth. That's what you're doing. You know, if you break down a face, it's a circle, 2 lines, and a line, or two circles and a line. You know, it's like you got these 2 little eyeballs and you got a smiley face and a circle. And whenever you look at that, you think about people. You know, you think of another human that's like, oh, there's this. That's not really what it is. That's not what I look like if you're looking at that smiley face there, right? That's not really what I look like, but you know that's something behind there. It signifies a smile. It signifies something. So that's the truth, right? And so the job of design is to technically solve that problem of taking something that's so complex and making it simple and easy to understand that you can share it with someone without saying anything. Like, oh, face, smile. Oh, maybe they're happy. Maybe they're happy about something. And so we need to design something and tell us a very specific story in a specific way. So in this case, with this worm thingy, we want it to be a little scary, right? We also need to figure out then all the specifics about it. Does it have arms and legs? Does it crawl? Does it like glide and swarm? And, you know, does it have a big mouth or a small one? What does it do? You know? So you have to explore those options. You have to see, and this is something that is kind of a team effort in that case. You have the story department trying to figure out what their needs are to, like, what, say, acting and staging and things, and then the designers are like, well, how should it feel and what should it look like? What do you need? And then the directors are all talking to each other like, well, it's got to feel like this. So there needs to be a plan of attack and everyone's involved. So there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen, but someone's got to make the the one decision. Say yes.
Yeah.
And that's our showrunner, right?
Yeah.
So we'll have a plan of attack. Like, this is all right. This is what we're gonna do. We're gonna make this thing. It's gonna be a worm like thing. It's gonna have these weird arms and stuff. Maybe it's got this mouth that's kind of like was it kind of like a coffee grinder, or I forget what it was. It was just
it had to open. I think a lot of people were referencing Alien too. Yeah. So there had to be like a separate like mouth that kind of comes out. that was part of it. And it's like a worm, so it had to have legs on all sides of the body, I guess.
Mhm.
And it had to move a certain way. It had to be like really slow, but it could also go really fast. Like those, like those millipedes, the silverfish that you find in your house.
Yeah.
Like when you see it, it's just like it's long, and and once you try to like touch it or like catch it, it wiggles out really quickly. So we wanted that, I guess, like feeling, So it also, building on this, it makes it really terrifying, because if you see this, 100-foot worm in a tunnel and you think it's slow, and then suddenly it starts running at you, I mean, that's kind of freaky.
You will be terrified, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, so then you can see in here, there's a little sketches, like tiny little thumbnail sketches of what the details could be like. So we start there. Those are some concepts. That helps the designer then they'll take that and they'll execute that vision. They'll finalize it, like, okay, let's make some bold decisions here, like make some very specific decisions. And the thing is about design, and we talked about this before, is you want to design economically. In some cases, like this needs to be made and it needs to be animated, and hopefully it's simple enough that you're not making it hard for someone on the other end, right?
Yeah.
Like this is a huge collaborative effort between so many artists, like sometimes hundreds of people. And so you want to make art that's compelling and interesting and exciting, but you also want to make it easy to work with too. So that's the part of producibility that we try to imbue in all our work, is make sure, all right, this is a thing that can be made. And it does everything we need to do, and it has to be done anyways because it needs to be made in like a couple weeks. So make sure it's made specifically within this specific amount of time. So
I mean, you also don't want to kill the person down the pipeline too,
yes,
we're like, oh, I love this thing, it's beautiful, it's complex, but then like the person who has to model it later, in CG, is gonna, they have to do it in like, I don't know, 3 days or something. Like you want them to be able to sleep also,
and to enjoy the process, because at the same time, we're talking about it like it's the job, but it's still the art. It's fun, you're playing, you get to play around, but it's also part of being professional, is understanding what your job is, like and being able to make those decisions when you need to, not when you feel like it, right? So here's an example of tying down an idea, because think of it like an IKEA manual a little bit. You look at the artwork and there's like the dudes with the wrench and the screwdriver, like, oh no, I wonder how we do it. And then you give a little step-by-step of putting them together. Right. So that's essentially what this is. It's a little bit of a blueprint, kind of a manual, right? So we try to give a clear view of what this thing is. You make those clear choices of shape and line and color, proportion, all those things that we were talking about earlier, and you fulfill every functional requirement, every story requirement. So in this case, you also try to give the next artist in production, a heads up on some things, like, hey, this arm that's coming out of them, that's a ball joint, make sure it's a ball and not like a swivel or something, so it can move, it has range of motion. We have to think of these technical things at the same time. Like, yeah, you're making things up, but sometimes it's, especially when you're working in CG or 3D, you got to make sure it works. Like, it makes sense, and it functions. So yeah, then we'll turn this stuff in, and we'll have it reviewed. We'll have all the higher ups, whoever is in leadership, and in this case above us would be the showrunners, the executive producers and directors, and making sure we're all aligning our visions together. We're like, okay, is this the thing that we're supposed to be making? And they let us know yes or no.
Yes. So there's usually a lot of notes.
Yeah, usually
that's just part of the process. You kind of just get used to it. Some notes are relevant, some are not relevant, I guess. But you just gotta have the artistic eye and the lens of producibility to make those decisions, and have a conversation about it too. Because like we'll have a showrunner say like, do it this way instead. But Jermaine and I sometimes have to push back and like, well, this might not be the most efficient way to do it, or this might not work with this part of the story. And there are a lot of things that we kind of just get overlooked because there's a lot of volume. So everybody has to kind of like keep everybody else in check,
Mhm.
team effort. No.
That's why, yeah, it's important that everyone understands the story, and
Yeah.
we all have the same mission, same
Yeah.
objectives, and this helps us align together and figure it out. So, we'll just have notes. So we'll look over and just kind of mark it. It's like, oh, make this thing bigger. Is the mouth supposed to be drooling? Let's make it drool so it's even scarier. Oh, we didn't draw the inside of the mouth. We should draw that. They need to know
Yeah.
what it looks like in there.
Is it gonna open?
Yeah, is it gonna open? Is it gonna move? The things come out of there, like we just gotta know. So you don't figure out everything from the get-go. It's a process. You got to figure it out, and that's why it's a collaborative effort. It's a team. It's tough to do this stuff on your own, because you have to be aware of so many things. So then we'll take those notes and then we'll finalize it. This is it. All right. We've made decisions. This is going to be the thing. You gotta you execute that final feedback. You've listened and you paid attention and see what's working, and you're like, okay, this is it. And then you package it. You make the perfect IKEA manual. It's simple, it's clear, and everyone knows what to do next, right? So at this point, for here in the color phase, we've established like the textures, the shaders, any references of how the light might bounce off of this thing. Maybe its eyes glow. What does it look like when the eyes aren't glowing? Oh, there's these lights that shine when they walk and stuff. The material shimmers a certain way. We have to make those clarifying notes, so you'll see like text all around it.
Yeah.
It just looks like a crazy puzzle or like one of those conspiracy boards on detective shows, right? It's just like there's so many things you got to pay attention to, but ideally you're making it clear enough that the next person can look at it and understand like, oh, okay, this thing's made of metal, this thing's kind of rubbery, maybe kind of plastic or something, etc. So that's a small example. And having that, making sure you're clarifying these notes for the next department, it just smooth things over with everybody. It makes everyone's job easier. So that's why
It's always nice. It's always nice when like there's no questions,
Yeah.
When it goes through the pipeline and they're not asking all these questions, like, oh, that means I did my job right, everything is clear and we can move on to the next thing, because otherwise, you turn in an assignment, I guess, you push it down the pipeline, and then once you're starting the next one, you're getting all these questions from the previous one. I'm like, oh no, I gotta figure this out while I'm figuring this out, so.
It's the Tetris stack. You start like things start stacking. You're like, uh-oh.
Yeah, it does happen. We try to like be better about it, but sometimes the volume kind of like just makes it so that it happens. It happens. So unfortunately.
So yeah, that's pretty much the process. That's pretty much everything we do day to day when we're making art, working with the teams and stuff. So in this section here, we'll talk a little bit about what your life's gonna be like. Working in animation, and there's a little, it's Aang, he's Avatar, he's learning stuff. So here's the thing. You probably chose art because you love to draw or paint or tell stories, right? And so you're passionate about it, and it's great. But because of that, it's also your passion is tied to your survival. This becomes your profession. It's the thing that you do to feed yourself. So it's really important that you do it well and you do it consistently, and you have a process to do that, because the passion propels the profession that provides you the profit to fuel your life so that you can play, and ideally you've learned enough and you're working with people that understand that too and can help facilitate that process, because everyone's different and every studio is different, every artist works differently, they've all learned things from different places, so everyone's playing their own single player game, but we're still playing multiplayer, like we're all co-op still, we still have to play together, so we have to work this out and figure it out, like and kind of remember that this thing that we came to love as kids is this thing that also feeds ourselves, so we have to be mindful of that. And here's the truth about it as well, is that we kind of live a nomadic lifestyle in the sense that sometimes we're at the mercy of the studio system. Like whatever show or project is being made at the time, they'll send out job postings and things, and we go and we figure out, send our portfolio and see if we're a good fit. We move from project to project. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that's one of the hardest parts of like being a professional or being in this profession, is having to look for jobs like almost every 4 months,
It varies, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
It's getting
also,
shorter and shorter too.
it is a little bit. And I think that's why it
But-
was important about like working on Ninja Turtles, is we were really lucky to work on a property that went for multiple seasons at once.
Yeah. Like my wife complains because she's never had a job that lasted more than like 8 months,
Mhm.
ever since she started. And she's always like hoping like my next gig is going to be more than a year, maybe,
Mhm.
But yeah, like when we started on Turtles, we didn't know how lucky we are, it's almost like winning the lottery, honestly.
Yeah.
And
Totally.
we were always reminded by the people we worked with, especially the veterans. We're always reminded that this is not, the
This ain't
reality.
normal.
This,
Yeah, this
this
isn't
is not normal.
normal.
5 years on a TV show isn't really, an animated TV show isn't really like a normal thing. So, but I didn't know. I was just having fun, learning and all that jazz. And but yeah, I hope it changes, but I don't really think it will. At least not in the foreseeable future. It's hard for like my sister, she's a nurse. It's hard for her to hear that I have to look for work every
Yeah.
few months. And like we always talk to people in our industry and our industry friends, and it's so normal for them, and once you talk to somebody that's like not in the industry, they're always scared for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we're kind of
Like, oh man, I'm so sorry you don't have work anymore. Like, what are you gonna do? Oh, I'll just find another one,
Yeah.
later.
But so then that's kind of why it's important, like knowing that this is the lay of the land, like being an artist, this is kind of what your life is like. You move from project to project, is you can still take command of your situation. Like that's not the only way to make money,
Definitely.
right?
Definitely.
So it is kind of survival of the fittest a little bit, because you need to be aware of the fact that you need to be prepared for opportunities when they arise. So you need to be able to sharpen your skills, know how that works. You got to stay connected with people and what's going on in the industry. You got to know your craft well enough that people will just ask you like, hey, you want to work on a thing? Because that's what helps with those gaps. Like me and Jeff have worked together for over a decade now, and we've been like, yo, you need a job? Yeah. I need a job. Hook it up. Because we'll be moving, we'll be doing different things, and the people you work with, you build trust and you start building this network. And when you start out, it's a little scary because you don't have one yet, but consider this your first one, or like one of your first ones. Like, hey, that's us.
Yeah.
We just need to see whether or not you're up to the task. And so this is kind of that head start a little bit. And so it's really important then that you're working on yourself and you're finding just what's important, like what the things you need to look out for. And what helps with that is having a little community, because at the same time you are this community, you are working in this small community. Animation is a small industry. Everyone knows each other. Like all the studios, like they talk, and we will go from studio to studio, right? Like we've worked at Nickelodeon and Warner Brothers and 6 Point Artists, which is a smaller independent studio, done projects, independent projects elsewhere, so bless you, the more connections you make, it'll help you survive, basically. And the great part about working within a community is that they want to lift you up too, and they want to see you succeed. No one wants to see you get dragged down. Like everyone here is like, yeah, let's make cool stuff. We don't not. And the great part about the survival of the fittest part is like you make the things you want to make, and make the things that only you can make. It's like you specifically, what's your skill tree? What's the story you want to tell that you need to tell? right? And that kind of will feed into this passion into profession to profit to play thing. You know, it's going to be this cycle where you got to kind of keep moving, but the further you get in your career, the easier it sort of gets, or the more resources you have available to you when things feel weird, you know? So, yeah, that's like glimpse into your life. It's fun. Trust me, it's still fun. It's still really fun.
It's fun,
You make
yeah.
a lot of cool stuff. You gotta remember that your passion is also what feeds you. So,
Yeah.
be responsible, save your money,
Yeah.
save your money, invest, things like that. You know, it's like, it's not just about the artwork, it's about the soft skills too. It's about working with people and understanding yourself and working, thinking long term. You know, there's like we said, sometimes a gig is only a few months, sometimes only a couple
Yeah.
weeks, you know, and then other times it's a few years. So you got to be prepared to hop onto any opportunities that come your way.
It was one of the first things that our art director told us to do, to save money.
Save your money.
Save your money, you know, at least 6 months that you
Yeah.
can live on. Yeah. You just don't know.
But you don't know. Yeah. So we're almost there. We're at the finish line. So
Yeah.
really quick, state of the industry. This is what's going on right now. Things are digital. It's crazy. Everything's on the internet. There's streaming involved. There's social media, YouTube. Animation is everywhere. It's in everything. You know, you can see like motion graphics in commercials and things. You see it on like filters or like stickers and GIFs, right? It's everywhere. It's on
Yeah, it's
everything.
pretty cool.
And it's not just limited to TV. It's not just limited to film. It's on your phone, your screen, your laptop, your iPad, whatever. So it's everywhere. And so we say this as animation production. It's a little weird right now. So if you're aware and you hear about the strikes and stuff like that, there's stuff going on because people aren't feeling heard and they want to feel heard. So there's a lot of stuff
Yeah.
going down. Projects are being delayed and stuff. But it's also kind of a cycle. It's a cycle. This sort of stuff happens year after year. You know, the last strike was a few years ago, maybe like a decade ago or something like that for the TV. It doesn't really affect, it does affect us, but not too much. But it's stuff
Not
that,
directly, I think.
not directly, but we still feel it, right?
Yeah.
We have actors, right? So actors
Yeah.
do the voices and
actors,
stuff.
yeah.
So if they're not working, what do we do?
Yeah.
Right. So right now it's a little shaky. Shows get canceled, they get turned into write-offs and stuff like that. Entire shows don't get to be seen, which is a
Yeah.
shame because a lot of great work
That
is
goes
just
into it, yeah.
goes into the bin. Which really sucks. But I think that's part of why we're also in a great time because you have the outlet to share your work to everyone all at once. The entire internet at your disposal. You know, you don't have to wait to make your dream project. You can do it now, just on a smaller scale. You know, the internet will be the thing that helps you build that community, to share your work, to practice. If you practice in public, you know, Jeff and I did that when we were coming up too. It's just like, what are you sketching today? What are you making? You know, you post it, you share it. And it kind of drives you. You try not to worry too much about like the follows and the likes, you know, none of that stuff. It does matter, but not really. You know, what matters is the connections you start making. You know,
Yeah.
if people start talking about it, cool. Talk to other people that you like. Look at the other artists that you're following and make friends. You know, that's the great part is like we
Community.
were outside of that proximity of the industry, but now it's so much easier to get in contact, see who's out there. Like if there's art directors or artists that you admire and stuff, you can reach them, you know, they're right there.
They're right
So,
there.
yeah. That's the great part of working in the industry today is that there's still opportunities in other fields. It's not just animation. If things feel a little bumpy, sure, but it's going to pick up again. It has to, you know, it just has to. It's not going away. Animation is a tool. It's not just a genre, you know, it's a medium. So it'll be around. It's cool. And so just thinking about the past, you know, it wasn't like this before. We had to do things on film and cells. You had to paint, like literally paint and draw on these plastic transparencies and stuff and film it with a camera. You don't need to do that anymore. You could just like You know, if you have an iPad and you do notes, you scribble, make the next one, make the next one, you know? Everyone has an opportunity these days to make whatever they want. All the tools are available, and some of them are free. Actually, a good chunk of them
Yeah.
are free. You know,
Yeah.
you just need access, and I think that's the tough part, is getting access to those resources. But luckily, a lot of these things are available to you. And so a little bit about the future. We've AI is a huge buzzword, right? That's going on, and as much as you want to worry about it, you don't have to worry about it. It's a discussion in our industry, but not really, because we really want to focus on artists as humans and people and making things, because at the end of the day, those things were supposed to be intended as a tool, right?
Yeah.
And some people use that as a shortcut, but those people that use that as a shortcut won't see their shortcomings, unfortunately. And so it's a discussion that we talk about and stuff, but everyone that we talk to is like, well, I'm not going to trust this person that doesn't really know what they're doing, that's just kind of punching in things. So it's a thing to look out for, because it's going to keep going, but it's a thing that you might have to just at least understand. You know, it's like, is it all good? Is it all bad? I don't know. You know, it's really new. But what we do know is that artists are being taken advantage of, and that's not cool. So it's a thing to keep in mind. But don't be worried about like artists' jobs being taken away and stuff like that. I mean, yes and no, because you still need to gain trust as an artist. You want to tell your story, you know, that's up to you.
Yeah.
There's always going to be someone to listen. There's going to be an audience for you to share your work with and all that. And then automation is kind of part of that, but it's also a tool. You know, it's like we automate a lot of things in our in our process. So really, it's about using technology to your advantage. Yeah.
Yeah. It makes it a little easier too. I mean, doing it right now in Photoshop. So
Yep.
yeah.
It's not cheating as long as you know how to do it. As long as you know how to do it, you know, from scratch. That's what's important. All right. So we're almost there, but so here's some tips on how to get started. If you're starting from scratch, you want to be a biz dev artist, here's some stuff that you can do. Immerse yourself in it. You know, like if you want to be an artist, you want to be an artist in animation, film, TV, whatever, then learn the history. Like, you know, Google everything, Wikipedia, everything, all your favorite shows. Figure, you know, find the weirdest Easter eggs you can find, you know, find the artists that worked on it, find the behind the scenes and all that stuff. It's all on the internet, and you can probably find it for free.
Watching the behind the scenes too is like, I think you learn a lot from just how people solve problems, I think.
Exactly.
So, you know, a lot of the behind the scenes are, you know, kind of like extra stuff on DVDs back then, but I think most of them are just on the internet now, and you can probably find.
That's how I got hooked on was it The Incredibles DVD, behind the scenes stuff, and I lost my mind when there was that storyboard sequence with Dash, you know, running across the water. I was like, oh, someone drew that. Like,
yeah.
Oh my god. So yeah, behind the scenes for sure. I'd say, and then you got to explore your interests, explore the things that you love and the things that you're interested about. The stuff that Jeff's talking about when we talk about science and technology, physics and metaphysics and stuff, ancient history. We want to put all that stuff into our work. You know, at the same time, we also look into ourselves and think about who we are, who our heroes are, what are the stories that we gravitate towards, what are our fears, what are our dreams and stuff. Is like, if you're aware of those things, then you have fuel. You know, you're prepping the page for your career. You know, you're immersing yourself into the things that you want to make. So do that. You know, you got to fill your cup, right? You got to fill your cup so you can pour it out and make this thing. So discover new things, make friends, make tons of friends that you can learn from, that you want to make things with, right? Learn what's good, what's considered good, what's considered well made, what's well crafted, and then think about what you think is good. You know, why? And figure out what you don't know. You know, be humbly aware, self-aware of what you do know and what you do not know, because you're going to be tested at some point, and you might as well start now. you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it was a big part too of when we started art directing. Like on some level, like we knew that the artists that we eventually hire on our team, they're gonna kind of like poke us a little bit and make sure that we know what we're doing and what we're talking about, you know, because in the end we're pretty much we're handing out the assignments, we're giving them notes, you know, on the project. And sometimes, you know, you have these people who are really they're you know specialized at what they do. They're
Mhm.
amazing at what they do. And if you're trying to give a note that doesn't make sense, they can smell all that from a mile
Yeah.
away. And they'll let you know exactly like, is this person, you know, qualified to tell me
Qualified.
what to do, you know? So
Yep.
I think like that was one of the biggest I guess like fears that I had. Like, am I qualified to tell somebody else like, no,
Mhm.
you gotta change it, you know, because it works this way. So that kind of pushed me to like, you know, keep practicing and keep
Mhm.
learning and um make sure that I know what I'm talking about, you know, when I give
Yep.
notes, you know.
Yep. Don't
So
just make it up. Yeah, yeah. Be
yeah,
confident, right?
because there are a lot of you know people who like just fall into the um just
The
directing and they
position.
might not
Yeah.
be the position they just might not be ready for it, you know.
Yeah.
Which is like nothing against them, you know. It's a hard job and there are requirements that you have to kind of like, you know, keep the show running smoothly. So
Yeah.
and
You'll
you
be
know,
you'll be very aware when those things come
yeah.
up. Yeah.
We've also heard it from our friends too.
Yeah.
Sometimes they get really cheeky, you know, they're like sometimes I test my director to see like if
Did they
they know
know?
what they're talking about. Yeah. I'll just like throw some jabs in there just to see.
Because
Well, you know,
you need to establish trust. That's a big thing,
yeah,
you know.
yeah. Respect.
Respect.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's a big part of it. And so that actually brings us to that next thing is like, well, after you immerse yourself, you got to play, you got to practice so you know what you're talking about, you know.
Yeah.
And so part of that is drawing for yourself, painting for yourself, making things, you know, make projects. You have to keep moving, you know, get those reps in. This is like it's like exercise, but it's fun. It's fun too, you know. And once we figured out too that like, hey, part of being survival, like the whole survival of this thing is that you got to be healthy, right? And so you got to play and practice, but you got to put in the time for yourself to actually be physically capable of doing this stuff. You know, we work long hours, we sit at a desk all day. It's important you get up, you move
Yeah,
around,
that's important.
you look after yourself, and
Health and
stuff.
wellness.
Exactly. So playing, practice, you search for feedback as much as possible. And like I said before, you make the things that only you can make, you know. That's what's going to set you apart because you are um and you know, you'll hear that a lot, making the things only you can make, but it's like, well, who are you as an artist? You know, like what are the things you want to be able to make? Are you a character designer that specializes in fantasy stuff or sci-fi, or do you really like making monsters and creatures or fantastic buildings and things? Like, make the things that you want to make, that what you want to see, you know. And so then you want to build your character. Like you are as an artist, you are a very specific and story character. You think of yourself as like a game character or like an RPG. You can identify your mission and your goals and your skills and all the things you want to be able to do. So kind of build that for yourself. Give yourself that space to plan ahead a little bit, because now you can look at the skills of what of the thing that you want to be capable of doing. Say you do want to be an art director or a filmmaker or whatever. Look to those people and see what they're doing. Like, what are the skills? What are they good at? You know, what does their work look like? And then break it down and look at the skills that you need to hone for yourself and build upon. And hopefully with the community, um, uh, and some mentorship, or you know, studying your heroes and stuff, and just trying and failing and learning from your mistakes and keeping track of them, making sure that you're aware of those mistakes, you know, because they can help propel you forward. Um, so as long as you can have that community that boosts you up and you know, it doesn't need to be huge, and a mentorship to kind of guide you along the way, you know, just ask for help, you know, and things will be a little clearer on how to get there.
Don't be afraid to ask for help,
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah. It is a co-op game, so we all get to play together.
Yeah.
And so here's some free resources, some paid resources and things that we recommend. Some online schools, some YouTube software tools, hardware, things like that. We can send you like screen grab or like the deck later, so you have access to this. But these are some things that I personally have used and have helped me along my journey. I've learned a lot from, and wish I had known a lot sooner. So good stuff.
Good list.
Yeah, check that out. And so here's kind of like the last thing that we want to say is create more than you consume. Like be very aware of your default state, you know? It's like if you look at your phone or whatever, there's default notifications that show up. Notifications are on by default. You know, you can turn those off, you know, or you can silence them or whatever. You can change the ringtone and stuff. So be aware of your default state. As an artist, if you want to get better and you want to learn, you got to build that creative habit, right? It's got to be something that you do. You can't say you're an artist if you're not making anything, right? It's all just in here. You're just thinking. So you got to put it down on the page. And one of the great ways to do that is just start small. Make one thing a day, something really small. If you have an idea about something, jot it down, you know, and hopefully day by day it'll build and you'll get better. And this become this habit that you, instead of wanting to watch the next YouTube tutorial on how to do something, you will just do the thing, you know, because you're just so excited to make the thing that you want to make, you know. So fill your cup, figure out the stuff you want to make, figure out who you are, explore what you want to be, you know, and then build that creative habit and make more of the things that you want to see get made, and that you want to be making someday.
And share it too. I think you learn a lot by teaching other, you know, people. And in the end, that's kind of like, you know, the community, right? We all like build each other up. So.
And here's some example of that stuff that we've posted like a long time ago.
Long time ago.
These are forever ago, but this is part of that whole like getting the reps in, being creative every day. You know, some of these were exercises that obviously may have taken a while or something like that, but some of these like I learned to do in a couple hours or something, or you know, you're just sitting and doodling stuff. It's just simple stuff. Just make things, you know, and it doesn't need to be perfect. It can be beautifully imperfect, you know. You get to play around, explore, play with your imagination. So that's it.
Sorry it takes so long.
Sorry, it took so long.
Oh man. We were like, oh, we could do this in like 40 minutes.
40 minutes.
Like
No,
thank you guys first, you know.
And I think if we did have time for Q&A, which we don't really have the time today, but I will say that your presentation and everything that you shared was so in depth and so thorough that I'm sure like any questions that probably came up, because we didn't even get many, like you were answering along the way, and you provided so much like a wealth of knowledge and experience and personality and everything for our you know, attendees in this webinar.
Awesome.
So thank you for that.
Absolutely.
We like at least wanted to make sure that it's, you know, pretty in depth, so that since it's like recorded, you know, so now this
Go
is
back.
a resource. Yeah, you can go back and
go back.
like
Yeah, watch back, check it out one more time.
Absolutely. Cool. So, you know, if you want to check us out online, you can find our handles here. We're on Twitter, Instagram, things like that. Check our websites.
Starting to post again, but I've been a little bit busy to do any new stuff.
Yeah. But we're still around, so you know, like if you're looking for advice or anything, we're always around. Don't be ashamed.
That's so great and so appreciated.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you guys about that. So we do have like 10 minutes left. We want to get into our closing. There was one question, if you guys can answer it super fast. What was your favorite project, each of you?
Whoa.
Oh man.
Dang.
I think it had to be the 2012 Turtles. That was kind of like the origin of everything.
Yeah.
I have like a soft spot for Venture Brothers. That was my job after Turtles.
Mhm.
And I think I say that because it was a very, very hard production to work on. And it kind of like taught me a lot of new things that I didn't really know that I needed to learn to keep going, you know? So yeah, it was also an
Uh,
awesome season.
I would
Fascinating.
say that
I
I'd say
love
that.
both of those things.
Oh, absolutely. I'd say the same for 2012 Turtles, but also Dora the Explorer being my first job.
The very first.
Is like it was so well made. It was in its seventh season. Everyone was firing on all cylinders. They were all veterans, you know, like some of my
Yeah.
coworkers worked on the original Ninja Turtles 80 series.
Yeah.
So
Exclusive.
it was a wealth of knowledge being surrounded by them. And it was great to see a well-oiled machine just like, you know, figure it out. And everyone just like, we were all lovey and huggy and stuff. It was great.
I mean, like the original Dora too was, you know, so simple and
So
you know
simple.
charming. Like the artists who work on it are so seasoned veterans. Like you just wouldn't really know. Like the
I had no idea.
juxtaposition is kind of crazy. Like one of the painters, I think, had this thing about painting these like horses, I think.
Oh yeah, yeah,
It
yeah,
was
yeah.
amazing. Yeah, yeah. Lido.
Just super realistic.
Realistic, majestic horses that I think he gave one to one of the directors of animation for their birthday one time, and I was like, oh man, you work on Dora?
Yeah. So yeah,
So so amazing.
Turtles, Dora, Venture Brothers.
Thank you for that,
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah, and you can.
So,
Sorry.
yeah, no, so every we usually end our groups with a closing, just like we had an opening. So I don't know if we want to transition into that, Chris.
Absolutely. This presentation was so inspiring and so wonderful to be a witness to. For our closing, we are going to invite everyone here to use the Q&A to share one word that reflects what you're taking from today's presentation. And my word is definitely going to be collaboration.
I guess my word's going to be self-learner.
Is that 2 words? No, just kidding.
Yeah.
And Jermaine and Jeff, feel free to share your word. I'm gonna take a look to the chat to see what words are coming to us here from our attendees. Adara says inspired. Eric,
that was my word.
That was your word?
Yeah. We're on the same way.
You and Eric are aligned. I love it. Mm-hmm.
Ooh, connection. That's a good one.
Yeah, we've got Aminata connection. Dylan, interesting. Janice just says leaving. Suleiman says opportunist. Nathan's word is teamwork. Matthew's creativity. Janice is learning, not leaving. I think that was a misspell. Samira says inspiring. Prince is motivating. Unsa is risk. Mohammed, educational. Chaya, hardworking. From an anonymous attendee, motivation. Amina says teamwork. Another person says teamwork. And Zenib says motivational. So we have time for more words to come in. And Jeremiah, I don't think I got to hear your word. If you
imagination. That's the whole game.
If I had more words, I wanted to say fill your cup, because I loved every time you return to that. And I think it's so important, you know.
Yeah. You got to fill your cup.
And then we have more coming in, even more and more and more. Where are they? Sorry, it keeps moving. Natasha said, mine are 5 words, but create more than you consume.
Do it.
It's great advice. Sadira's improve. Marima, knowledge and inspired. We have encouraging, more for teamwork. Yes, let us know what you're taking away in that one word. There's so much to take away from the incredible presentation you've given to our participants. Thank you again for truly bringing your passion, your knowledge, your experience, your teamwork to the space. Then we've got Sudhir, quality over quantity. Maya, wow. Najat, engaging. And then Shiza Tulu, fate is something you control.
You can do
Mhm. Oh, I'm so sorry that I keep saying your name wrong. Thank you for correcting me. Mariama, did I get it right that time? Hari says energizing and engaging. Okay, thanks for giving me that knowledge, Mariama. And in the next few moments, I just want to thank everyone who has participated in our closing ritual and for attending today's Industry Access event. Remember to stay connected to TAP by following our social media accounts that we're going to post in the chat. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody. Thank you so much, and congrats on finishing week number 4. Thank you to our incredible guests. It's so nice to get to know you and to have you.
Likewise.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
To our attendees, we'll see you next week.